First one, this is something that was in the news this past week and is still kind of in the news a little bit. Canada's digital services tax, or some people calling it the DST. I think for many, maybe they only found out about this when it was on the news as it related to trade negotiations between Canada and the United States. But people in our industry, specifically in what Duncan does on the advertising side of things, this is something that we're fairly familiar with because it's kind of been lurking out there for a while. So Duncan, as the head of our ads team, why don't you give us kind of the brief overview of what the DST is all about, or was all about, I guess, because it's currently on hiatus.
So my understanding, I mean, it always kind of part of the challenge with paying for ads was who pays for the taxes? Is the entities like Google Ads paying the Canadian government for the GST? Same thing with our agency when we kind of run ads for our clients, depending on if they have us pay for the media versus them paying for the media, who's being charged GST. So the assumption was always that Google was paying GST, but turns out I don't think that was actually true. So what ends up happening here is Canada's like, well, we're going to start charging you a 2.5% DST tax. That went into effect, I believe, in September of 2024, although the payments weren't due until just this past June, end of June. So what Google's done is it started charging its advertisers, us, and our clients, a 2.5% fee that it's tacked on to our bills on top of what we are paying for ads. This is only for ads, though, that are delivered in Canada. So when we go look at our bills, we sometimes see, an Austria DST fee, or various other countries actually have this DST fee. It's not just Canada that is charging this, and Google is basically charging it all back to the advertisers. So Canadian advertisers are just paying more for their ads because of this fee. Now that it's been rescinded, the question kind of becomes is like, okay, well, is Google going to pay everyone back the DST fee that they've already pre-collected? So to me, it's actually created some interesting dynamics because this is a real policy that is affecting our industry. So I actually sent an email to the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, to see, first of all, is he aware that Google has been charging us this fee basically since its inception, and we've been paying for it? And then with him rescinding it, what's going to happen to that money that Google's collected? Because we're talking tens of thousands of dollars over the course of this period that we have paid to Google under the assumption that this fee was going to go into place and that Google was going to pay back Canada come this payment being due. So I think the media is really consumed with the fact that like the politics, the trade politics between Trump and Mark Carney about this fee and how it's being used as a bargaining chip. But I think in our industry, we're actually seeing it play out a little differently, because I don't hear any news articles talking about how Google has always collected this fee ahead of time. So questions still remain on my head is what's going to happen with the money that Google's pre-collected. And I have yet to have an answer to that. Google hasn't updated any of their documents as of yesterday, and I've not received an email back from our Prime Minister, even though I let him know that, hey, we've already been paying for this. It's sort of ironic if you come to think of it, because it's the whole idea of like tariffs and saying that Canada pays for the tariff. In this case, it was like we're saying the U.S. pays for the tariff, but in actuality, they just charge it back to us and we pay for it. It's an interesting scenario, and it's one of the few that I've seen that really affected our industry. So it's definitely a point of conversation.
Maybe
right
if he
now.
knows you have a podcast, he'll get back and respond to your email quicker. So, yeah. Or
Maybe.
I mean, just being so
Maybe.
distinguished with that hat. If you would have sent that picture, like, hey, I'm a kind of an old timey chap here. What's up with the DST? Now, is it 2% or 2.5 or is it 3?
2.5. The U.S. likes to say 3 because they round up, but the actual number is 2.5%.
Okay. And should be clear, you were talking about Google, but this is like Meta, Amazon, Apple.
No, actually, so Google's the only one that started charging the DST fee.
Previously.
Facebook didn't.
Yeah.
Preemptively is maybe the better word. Like they're charging ahead of time for them being charged, or for this eventual payment that was going to be issued out to people. But I have not seen it on any other platforms besides Google. To be honest, I haven't seen it. It could simply be baked into Facebook,
Yeah.
or I don't know what happened there. But as far as I'm aware, it's just Google Ads that have been pre-billing,
Or had it
at
actually
least
started, that may have happened.
so much so that it's a separate line item on our
Yeah.
billings.
Okay. No, it's good to know.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting that like I mean, I'm not in the ad world like you and even Ian, because you do a lot of blocking charts and stuff. But I was aware of it because it would come up in conversation for a while. So when it became a real big thing this past week, I was kind of thinking, well, I've heard about this for a while. So there's a clarification on what it's actually all about. So as it stands right now, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and I also thought that Canada was. I always thought that Canada was charging it each month. I didn't realize until I looked into this further that it's like a yearly payment that comes out every year, that it's due. So, like I say, it makes a little bit sense why Google was collecting it on our behalf, because they have to pay it out afterwards. But it seems like they're the only, like Facebook, as far as I know, doesn't do it unless, like I say, they may have just baked it into their fees, but they don't have it as a separate line item for us to see in our bills.
So hypothetical, if your letter to Mark Carney works and Google has to repay all of it, and we get this lump sum, what are we doing? Jetpacks? What are we doing? We got to do something fun in the office.
Well, I mean, I would say most of it has to go back to the clients that paid, like the clients that paid the media. So what's going to happen, what's likely going to happen, is Google's just going to credit the ad accounts that it charged it to. Like that's what's going to happen. So it's not like we're going to get a check from Google. So unfortunately, I think jetpacks are.
What if the client?
We'll have to borrow.
Yeah. What if the client bought a jetpack for us? Give it some thought.
I mean, that can happen at any time. I don't think that really needs.
True.
It's not really relevant, but that'd be great. That'd be great.
I'll talk to a couple of clients and see what they say.
Avoid the stairs.
Yeah, because this is a flight of stairs here. You can't be going down this every day. Like, not a chance.